Hi guys, welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show with live peoples. It's a bit early on impromptu Monday. I'm going to try and get on Monday mornings if I don't have anything else on. I thought I would have a bit of a go at finishing a page, this double page spread in Kerby Animorphia. And I was using them, and you've got to be a bit careful with my wonderful Winsor & Newton watercolor markers, but they are professional markers, so they're very, very, very strong. So I have been using them fairly kind of damp, and I've done okay. But when I've used them in another color book, it's gone through. It's not quite gone through, but it's shown through. So I had a bit of a practice on photocopy paper. So this is about 80-90. It's a bit stronger than ordinary copy paper. And as you can see, if you get too carried away, it'll go through. So then I had to play on this paper, which is about the same thickness, and you can see it. So I would say that has gone through. But again, I was building up color, and I should have left it. I should have left it and gone back to it. And I like to say, 24 hours. And then that wouldn't have happened. So I've learnt my lesson. And I was always terribly wanting to do this book, but always really frightened. Oh, hi, Melody. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. So sometimes you've got to be really careful. So I'm glad I had a go, because I've had this book a while, so desperate to colour these mushrooms in, but I was so worried. And of course, by the time I got to this little pine cone, I knew what I was doing, so I was a bit gentler. But these are beautifully well pigmented, very strong markers, and I have them. Sorry, guys, I have them in my pencil case, and this one is quite a wide pencil case. This one, it's shorter and wider, and if I could just pick that book up. Oh, dear goodness. I'm actually back in the studio, guys. I'm in my studio. It's the first dull day we've had in the UK. We're having a bit of a lull from the heat wave. So this is 12 by 8.5, and it's 4 inches deep. And that allows me to put my lovely, and I've kept the cover over the little pouch of my Series 7 handmade Winsor & Newton colour books. And because of this wide gusset, I can put those in there, and I can actually fit all my other watercolour brushes in as well. And they sit there, and the zip just goes all the way around. So I actually like this one. And this particular pencil case, I think, is a TURO 80, and it's for 80 markers. And I did have a good look, because I wanted these colours to match where they are. So start with the yellow. It's upside down, sorry guys. Start with the yellows, to reds, to pinks, to purples, to blues, to greens. And then when I flicked it over, all the yellow ochres and the browns and the umbers and the blacks and greys were on this side. I did have some watercolours things on this side here, but I think I'm going to leave this, because I can put I have put my riggers in this. Now I am going to buy, I didn't buy last week on Saturday, but I am going to buy, it's about double this size, but about this width, and it's got some acrylic. It's got 6 or 8 acrylic paintbrushes in it, but it will hold a lot more. So I want to somewhere so I can put my riggers, because I do like my riggers with these watercolors when I want to color in a color book. So I decided that as I said, I was very good. I didn't buy it, but I decided that yes, next time I go to Manchester, I will buy that, and it will sit here, because again, I don't have a set of markers here, and I don't have a set of markers at the back. So that's given me a little bit of leeway So I could fit those together. And what I've done with this is I can't get a colour book page in here. I can get a small sketchbook or an A5 sketchbook, which is quite nice. So let's see if I can move this along slightly. But I have found in a charity shop, I found a really nice, I think it was called Star Dragon. I think it's a man's laptop bag, carry-all, but it actually fits all my equipment in. So I can either have my watercolor markers and my brushes, and I can have color books, or I can have a couple of sketchbooks. So all I have to do is switch out the color books and the sketchbooks and leave everything else in, and it's a complete system. So it's my travel watercolors. So I'm in my little room, and it's very, very badly designed and very rough. So very quickly, if I try to do this, hopefully you can see how ugly. I've got some material that a friend gave me, and it's held up across the top with bricks. So it's, but what it does is it stops the sun actually shining on my room. And my room is a pigsty. My room is a pigsty. Oh, I don't know which cat that is. That's a bit scary. That's very scary. Oh, this isn't a cat, it's me. I was frightened then, thinking I've got more cats than I thought I had. So I've got the baskets up. And then, of course, if we squiddle around that way, we can see outside and all the wildlife and all the wildflowers. So and the guys are coming to mend all this. They're coming to mend all this in a little while. So, and it's a cooler day today. As you see, we don't have the bright sunshine. So I am actually in, if we like these, we'll probably get some nice blinds or something, but we just wanted to see if it would work. So at the moment, I've got 6 bricks holding up about 40 yards of material that a friend gave me. So it didn't cost me anything. And I wanted to see if it would work, but it does tend to keep the sun, oopsie, it keeps the sun away. Sorry, guys, I just had a bit of a moment. Here, because all my things in front of me, so that's going to be quite nice. Oh, you like your rigger brushes? Yeah, I must admit I kind of like them too. So have a mouthful of coffee. So I'm going to have to turn that water around now, because I was having a bit of a play with acrylics, I think. So I've got some dirty water there, but you need, this is for cleaning the brush, and this is for picking up clean fresh water. And you need 2 pots, and this one actually splits into 2. They're only cheapy, but it should have a lid somewhere, but I haven't seen the lid for many years. I do prefer my little pot, so actually I'm going to bring that in here. And I have a new water drinker, so we can very carefully try to pour some in there. So I finally got one of these. They had them in Sainsbury's, and I wanted a Love Island one, but I wanted one, and I didn't know if it would be easy to hold open, and actually it is. So I can manage to have a drinker now. I couldn't do that before because they were so awkward to open, but I can actually manage that one. So hopefully, oh, thank you, Melody, thank you. So we had a part 1 of the owl, and I did use the marker straight from the marker. But as I say, these are very, very strong. So there's a little bit of bleed, so a tiny bit, but not much. And this is, but the Kerby Rosanes has always been really, really good quality. It's always been really good quality. So I'm just trying to think what paintbrushes I used. I think I used my best ones. And I just keep this because it's handy to show everybody what I'm using. So these are my series 7s, and I've had some for quite a long time, and I decided that actually I'm probably going to use them. Although I did buy, and I need to move them because they got a bit knocked about a bit. I did buy 3 half riggers the other day. I was looking at different ones. I hate doing this. I hate splitting them up. It's a set of 3. So I did buy 1 or 2 things. And this, I'm going to use that for the mushrooms. It's a drawing gum. It's like a masking fluid, but it's in a 0.7 millimeter. So I'll see how good that is. I'm hoping it's going to be good. I'm hoping we can reuse it. I'm hoping it's going to be good. So I just pop that out of the way. I'm just desperate to find this other paintbrush that shouldn't be far away. I found it. There we are. So they've all got their little plastic top on. So I thought these would be quite good for this particular owl. They are half rigger, series 64, and I really like these. 2, 4, and a 6. Sorry, I beg your pardon. A 2, a 4, a 2, and a 2, 0. And so you can see there's a bit of a gap. And I think that's quite nice because you want some fine feathers in there. And I was using that one actually, so I've just realised I think I might use these today to see how we get on with them. There is something nice about using sable brushes though. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just having a bit of no, I'm at my desk now and I have more space than I had before, and yet I've got less space. So I have the Elf Master. So I'm going to pull these off. I do tend to keep them. So I'm going to put these in water. Now, really, I suppose we could, this is proper cleaning brush solution. So I'm just going to do them gently. The acrylics I kind of swizzle around, but these I don't. I like to keep that nice point. And then I'm going to put them in that dirty water. And then in the clean, twist to a point, and we should have ready to go. Paintbrushes normally always have a little bit of a coating on them. So I think actually, if we look at that, that's going to be quite good. I'll zoom in a little bit, and I don't need those. So I'm going to use this little plastic palette. Now on Wednesday, I'm going to have a bit of a trip to pick up another little thing of mine that I bought. Oh, phone appeared. I've been looking for that. So I bought this from eBay, and I was looking, and they were about £50, which I thought is a bit too expensive. And then I managed to bid for this, but because it's quite old, I'm actually going to go pick it up because it is quite old, and of course I can't find it now. It's a vintage round. It's a ceramic palette, and it's all glazed, and because it's old, but it's a ceramic one, and I want to get away from plastic. And I managed to pick that up, so I'm going to go, but I'm actually didn't want it to be posted. So I'm going to pick that up on Wednesday, hopefully. And we've got some new kids on the block really quickly before we start to paint. we've got some new babbies, and I've created, which I'll put up on the website, a new mini advert for some older cats that we have at the moment. But we have some kittens, so very quickly we'll have an update of the RSPCA, and we have some kitties. So she's outside, isn't she scrummy? She's absolutely scrumptious. I didn't get outside, but she was playing. She was playing hide and seek. So we've got some new girls. Very tempted to get this one to confuse Alfie, because we'd have 3 black cats then. So these are the older cats. Absolutely gorgeous. And then we have some babbies. And let me find the babbies. So 2 kittens were brought in. This is her. Isn't she sweet? She was playing. I just love that one. I think that's just so gorgeous, peeping out, playing. And so she's quite a pretty girl in the pen. And the mummy of these 4 kittens, they brought 2 orphan kittens in yesterday, or day before, and they were 2 weeks younger than these. We think they're either 2 weeks or 3 weeks old, and she's accepted them, so she's feeding them. So she's feeding 6 kittens now, so that was lovely. So I'll try and find that for Facebook. See if I can find it on Facebook. The RSPCA Ghoul. Just bear with me a second. And you can see she's adopted the babies. She's feeding the babies. So that's so cute. It really is so cute of her. That's Rocco. So that's Rocco. And I think that one's Oscar. Just bear with me a second. He's an old boy. I think he's 5. Yeah, Buddy. That's Buddy. He's 5 years old, is Buddy. So he's looking for a home. And then we have Maria. That's Maria. So tempted to get Maria because it's a bit of sooty, and that would confuse Alfie to death. So I made a bit of a this is my trailer that I made for the RSPCA. It doesn't have any sound, and so we've got Buddy, who's 5, Rocco's quite gorgeous, Annabelle, Maria, and Susie. And then I put about cats that have had some loving homes. And of course, Bungle appears in there. So these are rehomed, Victor and Victoria. And there's Bungle and Betsy. And then Bungle and Betsy's brothers and sisters, they all got homes. And then we have Bungle at the end. So that's where we are with those. I just don't know where I would find. Oh, this is one of the cats. They're so friendly, the cats. They're so friendly. They just want a loving home. And I think there is a little bit of a shot of this mummy feeding all the... Oh, there he is again, look. Aren't they gorgeous? So that one is... Let me see if I can find the bit where the cats, because I just think it's so cute that she's only a very young mum, and yet they just put 2 kittens that are not hers, and she's just feeding them. It's just so cute. Oh, these are the new babies. I think these are the new babies here. So that's the mummy. That's the mummy. And these are the new kittens. So they're just starting to play now. So when I go on Wednesday, they'll be just ready to play. They are so cute. So they were the little dids that are a couple of weeks old last week. So they're growing quite fast now. But there was a little bit, and this was... to try and find the mummy kitten. Oh, here we are. Look, we now have a litter of not 4 but 6 kittens. An RSPC animal collector officer brought to the branch 2 3-week-old kittens that need a mum. We have put them with Indy's litter of 4, and she's feeding them. So she's feeding all 6 kittens now. So instead of 4 kittens, they suddenly got two little ones. So she's feeding them. So I don't know what's happened to the mum, but so she's actually feeding them now. So that's the Ghoul RSPCA, and they're on that website. That on there on Facebook. You can find them on Ghoul RSPCA. But isn't that just delicious? So she's suddenly got 6. She's suddenly got 6 kittens now. So Mel says, how many kittens now? Well, I don't have them here because, of course, we've still got our bungle. But he hasn't had a snotty nose for 3 days, which is a bit weird because he's not on any medication at the minute. Very strange. Maybe it's the weather, but we've had this weather now for about 4 weeks. Can't understand why he's not snotty for the last few days. But Gigi's not well. We thought it's only days, I think, probably maybe a week. She's really not well. So we've got the little Dexter, the deaf one, the incontinent cross. Then we have Piggles, who's got dementia and leukemia. And then we have Alfie, who's about the size of about 10 dogs. So we've only got 4 cats. We've got original Sutty. Then we've got the other cat we rescued from Filey a few years ago. And we also have Betsy and Bungle. And Betsy and Bungle then are now kind of sorted with Alfie. They kind of just stand up to him and go away, Alfie. And so that's quite nice. And Betsy started to walk about in front of people and come out and say, excuse me, but it's feeding time. Do you mind? So she's done really well. It's taken a bit of time, but she's doing that now. So that's quite nice. I'm going to leave that on there for 2 reasons. One is I want to use it as a practice. So I can't remember what colours I was using, but I like my sepia. So we'll go to sepia. Anybody got any more questions? We have little Diddy Dexter. He's the incontinent cross, unfortunately. He is. So I'm going to put a little bit of sepia on that side there. And again, it's just the size of a few pence. And burnt umber. I also used yellow ochre and paler is raw sienna. And I think I'm going to use the number 2. We'll just have a play with that. Could do with a fresh baby wipe. I don't have a lid on those because they've done that. So I'm going to put that about there. I did have the lid for that, but I don't know where it is now. So I'm going to pick up, not sure if this is going to be small enough, but we'll see. And I will zoom in a little while, but I just want to see how easy and simple. In fact, I think I'm going to actually go straight to the fine one. This is the 2-0, and it is quite fine. So that's my little finger. So it is quite a fine point. And you really want to use these watered down, because I love the fact they come out wet. So you don't have to, if you're using tubes, you have to get them to a wet consistency. If you're using a pan, you have to wet them. This, they come out just wet. Just dilute them and then just start to paint. And I really like that. I actually think this brush is too big, actually. I think that brush is a bit too big. I was using this had some Chinese brushes in, I think. That's quite a fine one. Let's have a look. Yeah, when they've gone, you see, I use that for acrylics now because it's gone. That was quite a long fine one. That was the finest one. I got these at the Model Railway Show quite a few years ago. So if we look at these two, this one is a 3-0 and it's Italeri made in China. And actually it's about the same, I think, but it is longer. So if you put, you know, it's longer, I think. And again, that one's just going a little bit tailed at the ends. So we'll just have to see. But I like working like this. I missed this, and I don't enjoy colouring in like I used to do, but it's done its thing. It's helped me get back. So I'm quite happy about that. Just put that slightly out of the way because they are wet. I want kind of the feathery effect on there. I think we could do with a finer one, but and because I've left this for a few days, it's very dry now, so I can work in it, whereas if I had not left it, so you can really kind of build up. You can build up some nice colour. So we put some warmer colours underneath. It is still very warm here, even though it's clouded over, it's still a very warm day. And it's just quite nice to kind of build up some kind of feathers. Bring some warmth to that beak. think I did a very pale wash on here. And there's something quite nice about just building up. Colour. But it's having quite a tweet. Having. Oh, hi Sandra, welcome to Benny's Designs. Thank you. Thank you. I'll zoom in a bit now and you can see maybe a bit better how we're doing. But it is quite a nice therapeutic way to work. Oops, the camera's gone a bit haywire. There we are, back. Let's see if we can read that. It's not too bad. So I'm just building up small amounts of colour and working behind a ridge that would dark. So I did put a fine wash of, I think it was raw sienna, the palest one. I think I did put kind of a very pale wash over there. But you have to be careful with these because they're very, very strong. Now, normally you can rub about and scrush it round and remove it because it's a pure watercolour. But of course, this is not watercolour paper, so got to be a little bit careful. I think I'm going to have a nice highlight there. So what we can do here is kind of work backwards. And we want some kind of darker feathers here. It's very warm, so this paint is drying out really quickly. But if we build up this dark here, we're going to have a really nice highlight on this one. Oh, thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Yeah, I've neglected this book. This is one of the first ones, and I neglected it. Now, I've got a bit of a bubble there because, again, you get a bit carried away when you're working on watercolours, unless you have the rigours and you know what you're doing. And I've got back into watercolour mode, which you've got to work quite dry and quite precise because it's difficult. But it's quite nice thinking that there are going to be some darks. Again, I'm going to leave the sepia out because it's quite a nice colour. You can do lots with it, but it is very, very strong. it's quite nice to build up. And I was always afraid of this page, I think. But this particular method, you need small spaces. You can't, like I did here, do big spaces because you just make too much. So it's the tiniest strokes. And this is probably going to take quite a long time to do like this. But again, it's a bit like a jigsaw. You're just in each small space at a time. And then we can go back in with a bit more detail. And again, it's not a race. You just have to just enjoy the process. And it's quite nice to work this kind of precise. It is nice to work like this. Don't always like it, but the Hannah Carlsons I normally do really quickly because they're kind of make believe and just create some watercolor spaces. But some pages just lend themselves to this. So yesterday we had a bit of I thought Pickles was going to be not going to make it the afternoon. She looked quite poorly. So I sat and played with her ears, and I was watercolouring with my little book of watercolours. And I needed to be there to sit with her and play with her ears. So, but she's woke up this morning and she's bright as a bobbin again. So I think she's going to go down with a fight, bless her. And of course we can make that rounded by creating some darks. Create some darks on that. Oops, I've lost chat. I don't know what I've done. And about here, we're going to start to get a bit lighter. I want this bit to be quite dark here. I'll see in it. Right. Burnt umber. I think I'm going to keep those out. sepia. It's quite dark. So thanks, guys, for popping back. It's an impromptu Monday. Hopefully I'm going to try and get on a Monday morning, 9 o'clock London Greenwich Mean Time. I used to do Mondays, and then I kind of fell off a bit, but hopefully let's create a bit more darkness in there. So it is quite a nice, pleasant way to just create this kind of warm light colour there. So if anybody's got any questions or got any requests, I'll try and put the links below. I forgot to do that in the last few videos, but I'll try and get the links back in. And then I always feel guilty of being a little bit more like an enabler. But I have to say I do like these watercolours. And they work for all types of artists, for colourists, and for watercolouring for professionals as well. So I kind of like that. I like all-rounders. I've always done that. I've always liked the Derwents, the watercolour pencils, because they're professional watercolours as well. So I've kind of always liked that. I need to put some feathers on, but I need to keep it lighter than the others. And of course, a lot of the cross-hatching has been done for us, so I kind of know. Oh, thank you, Sandra. This is the Winsor & Newton watercolor markers. And I just love the fact that they're all kind of ready there for you. I did buy the set of 6, and then I love them so much. I just love them so much that I gave 6 to my daughter and bought a set of 12. And then really kind of tried to resist, but they're currently my favorite because they just come out of the end ready to use, and it's just so nice. I was a bit apprehensive of how long they'll last, but I fully intend to fill them with watercolor when anything happens to them. But I have a funny feeling, because they are so well pigmented, I think they're going to last me quite a while. So at the moment, I've got the sepia for the very dark. Raw sienna is lighter than yellow ochre. I've got raw umber and burnt umber, and then the darkest is the sepia, the very dark one here. I'm using the sepia instead of black because I don't use black, so I've got sepia. If I was working on blue or purple, I would use indigo, and if I was using a red, I would use burnt carmine. So I think I made burnt carmine for the mushroom because I don't like black as a shadow. So if you haven't got sepia, a French ultramarine and a burnt umber, it's a very, very dark, cold brown. So it's quite a nice brown, isn't it? Want to create a little bit of a shadow, and we need to make this rounded as well, so build up the feathers. But again, Kerby Rosanes books are quite good because they've shown us where everything is. All we have to do is to just fill them out a bit. And it doesn't take much pigment either, so again, I kind of like that. And of course, when we get down here, we get a longer. Just building up that little bit. So we're building up those colours, and then of course we can really build them up by putting the sepia back in again. And I don't tend to use the bullet end, I tend just to use, but that could change. That could change. And again, it's a nice way to work, just gently taking each feather and just making it stand out a bit. And creating a bit of a shadow around that wing. Where there would be a shadow. And by the time it gets over here, it's kind of, we've got some light on it now, so we don't need too much. So we can go back to the lighter colour. So we have raw sienna, yellow ochre, and I don't like to touch the nibs. We have raw sienna, sorry, raw umber, then we have burnt umber, and then we have sepia. And a combination of all these, and they can dry on here and you just reconstitute them, so it's quite okay. And then we'll have a bit of a highlight. I'm a bit at the wrong angle for this, but it'll be fine. So this is the palest one. And then yellow ochre. So I could take it this is a tawny owl, possibly. Or a barn owl. I can't remember. To build a bit more warmth into that one. So we just have that really subtle colour because we like the fact that this is going to be rounded. So this is, I think this is raw umber. And it's a bit like a dark shadow gold. It's the best way to describe it. And of course it's warm, so it's going to warm those feathers up. So it's got quite a nice highlight on there. And then of course we need to get a little bit darker coming down here. needs to be gradual as well, so everything matches. And then I think these could be sepia. With some yellow ochre. Then we'll go do the tomatoes. I did do the toadstools because this wants to rest now. Although I'm not rubbing too much, I am wetting it. So let that sit for a little while. And I'm going to go into the mushrooms. So I'm going to be using my cadmium red hue and cadmium red deep, Elysian crimson, and quinacridone magenta for my burnt carmine. Mouth of cold coffee. Has anybody got any questions? A slightly bigger brush this time. This is the number 2. So I've got a slight highlight. I think I did the little one first. I think this one is going to be a mixture, and I take the water off if it's too wet. Oops, sorry guys, wrong way. And just put a bit of darkness on that one. It is extremely warm in this room, so and if it gets too dry, you can always tell it's too dry. Do I want the highlight? There wouldn't be much under there. I mix these two together. Just then last of all, that's too purple, is that? I have to put that red in. It's almost burnt carmine. Just a dab. Just to give it a little bit of oomph. And while we've got this colour, we possibly could get rid of some of these creatures down here. Sorry about that, guys. I have a new tea boy. Oh, I'm just going to put a little bit of this under here and see what that does. You see? Just bear with me 2 seconds, guys. We're back in a second. Oh, sorry, guys, the dust has got me. Oh, dear. Hi, no, it isn't Nigel, actually. It's Amy. Oh, excuse me. Amy wanted to know where her things were. Oh, gosh, excuse me. So I need a bit of a shading for here. So I'm going to make... I'm going to use my... I use indigo for my shadows. Oh, sorry, guys. I just had a... It's very dusty in my room. I'm actually in the studio, but hubby's not back yet. I think he's gone for a meeting today. But my daughter's home from uni, the one that pushed me around the wheelchair in the wheelchair around Manchester on Saturday. Excuse me. And I brought home her things. So indigo. So I use burnt carmine for red. I use sepia or a dark brown, and a dark brown with French ultramarine gives you a Payne's grey. But I like a sepia is a very, very dark black brown, I would call that. But for leaves, I like indigo. So we've got Hooker's Green Dark. And they're the colours I normally use. Excuse me. And they're the shadows that I use. So instead of using black, this is what I create dark shadows with. So indigo gives you a really nice dark shadow. And the blue is a cold, works really well for a shadow, I think. It does indigo. Now you can either use it over the top of green. If you mix it with Hooker's Green, you get that very dark, cold shadow. So yeah, that really is a dark, cold space under there. And I've mixed dark Hooker's Green with it. And now I've got almost a Viridian. I would say that's a Viridian. It's very dark. And of course, the second layer. Now, really, we shouldn't have done this because obviously we're wet and we're wet on damp, which we don't do on colour pages. But I wanted to show how nice it is to just move about with these colours. I have to be a little bit careful. Oh, hi, Mika. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. How wonderful to see you. Hope you're well. I've suddenly got this croaky voice. Yes, Melody, it is. Melody says it's wonderful to be in HD after you stream. It is. It is. I do miss the pause button. I miss the fact that you don't have to do a 6-hour show. But apart from that, it's quite wonderful because you lose lots of people when you're trying to get round. So welcome, Mika. Hope you're okay. We're still having this heat wave in the UK. I don't know if you're catching the tail end. Oh dear. Yes, I think lots of people had that trouble with Ustream. I think Dorothy has that problem and quite a few others. I think it didn't like me for a time. Again, not sure if they were trying to get rid of us. Oh, you're melting too, Mika. Yes, having it what we've got over here. It's muggy today. It's the first day it's been cloudy, but it is muggy. And yesterday, I managed to put material over the top of my the roof of the conservatory because it's just glass. And a friend of mine gave me quite a few yards of material, a whole reel of it. So I unraveled it, and I've got 8 bricks. Cheap tight Yorkshire lass, 8 bricks and some free material, and I've made myself a makeshift hammock just to stop the sun on the desk. So it's bright and I have a bit of a shadow, but it's not too bad. But it's not a nice day today. It's the first muggy day we've had, and I really don't like those days where it's the atmosphere. I wonder if that's why I've woken up with a screaming headache. And I've not had one for a while, but I would think it's because we've got a very hot day, but it's very cloudy. And that's a humid, horrid day for that, I think. So I started this last week, I think. So I've got a really nice shadow on that and highlight. So I've been up there. So I'm going to come down here, and I want to really darken this. So again, the browns I'm using for the owl, you'll actually find that raw sienna is lighter than yellow ochre. Now, in real life, I'm not sure that is so, but we'll put yellow ochre here and raw sienna here. And then we have raw umber, which is, again, a little bit warm, and then burnt umber. And then, of course, we've got our shadow sepia. So they're the colours that I'm using. And I do like markers. I have to say they are growing on me very well. I've got my Pro Art Master Stroke Series 64, which I bought at Cassart. I think they were £2 or £3 each. I have a 2, a 4, and a 2 0. So that's giving me some quite nice. So I've been over there with some lighter, but I think I'm still going to use my 2 0, and I like these. I really do like these. I'm going to start with a medium tone. And I have a piece of paper, so if you were trying to remember which was which, you could just do a bit of a. Always good to have a piece of paper. I think I've got on that one this time because I don't want to be pale, and just we need to leave gaps because that's what creates the feathering appearance. So just stroking down. And Alfie and the cats are in the same room. He had a bit of a moment this morning, but he's definitely getting better. And of course, Bungle's learnt not to run away, which is a big thing for Alfie, because if you stand your ground, he's a bit of a wimp. So we can get some shadowing on here. And again, the Kerby Rosane's brilliant because, of course, all the cross-hatching's done for you, so we know exactly, really, where we should be putting some darks. And then by the time we get back round there, I think it will be time, it'll be dry. He's just jumping on the sofa. He knows he's... Oh, thank you, Mika. Thank you. Excuse me. I have woken up this morning with a head cold, I think. Which is something that I could do without. So, although it's so warm here, that's dried straight away. Normally, I would leave this space and go somewhere else. And then, of course, we're going to this lovely, deep, dark, almost a black brown is sepia. But it's so much nicer than black. For goodness sake, don't use black. Or if you want to use black, put brown to black or blue to black. If you put blue to black, you might get the indigo. You take black to blue and you'll get an indigo. Use that for your shadows, for your blues and your greens. Put a red to a black. A red to black will give you a brown shadow or a warm shadow. Dark purple, a purple to a red will give you a burnt carmine. That's a really nice dark shadow for red. What are you doing, Al? He's on the sofa playing. He's on the sofa. Also got some nice darks under there, but I actually think I want another dark, which is this shadow here. And again, this is where we can take this and have a bit of artistic license and create that shadow that wasn't there. And just by not black, just that little tiny bit, and just instead of feathers, we're just now creating a dark shadow, and it's made that wing look 3D. And we've just taken a small amount, and I think I may do that. So again, that just looks a little bit, but when we get to the top, it can make the wing really stand out. And we can do the same underneath as well. Although Kerby's not put it all the way, I've got some burnt umber up there. I'm quite tempted to just do this. And that's instantly decided that those, and it's just watered down this. I think we could take that a step further. Now, I shouldn't have really worked on this bit because it's a bit damp, but it's a Kerby. So we have now a lovely shadow, and we'll just double check to make sure we're okay. We're still fine. I'll just pull that over. Sorry about the clatter. So there was a little bit here, but just the tiniest little mark. Most of it, nothing's gone through. And I did check that I will not be, or I shouldn't say never, but I don't think I'll be using this page. I don't like this page. I can't draw like Kerby, like I can't draw like Joanna. So the only way I would fill these in is if I traced. So I can trace and then I will colour it in. But I can't, if they weren't coloured in at all, there were none of his designs, I would do it. But that would drive me insane trying to copy. And mine looks so pants next to his. So if I was going to do anything with this next double page spread with the turtles, I would trace these turtle shapes in and then color them in. And because of that, I decided it was worth it to practice with these marker pens. And I did the yellow beak, and you think you might go through. You probably would any other color book, but the Kerby one's always been quite well behaved, and it looks like I've actually got a buckle on there, but I haven't. So what I need to do is have this light here, almost white, almost. So I really have to be careful, because I really want this wing to be in the light, because we can start light, and if it doesn't work, we can make it darker. But what we can't do is take the light away. If we're on watercolor paper, we could. If that was too dark and it was watercolor paper, I would get a damp brush, a bigger one like this, and I would make it wet, scrub it up, and tissue and it off, or kitchen paper, and I could take that off. But this is not. If you start doing that on this paper, you will just rub a hole in it. So we have to start light and work dark, because we want watercolor effects, but we're doing it on fairly thin paper. But it can be done. You just have to think completely differently to watercolor. And that's why I invented watercoloring. Watercoloring is using water-based mediums in color books on thin pages, but not using them as traditional watercolors, but using traditional watercolors, if that makes any sense. And I've lost a paintbrush, so I have to just see if I can find my paintbrush. It's rolled away. So again, twist gently on a baby wipe, and it gives you your points. And do make sure you don't put your tissue next to your book, because it will crinkle the paper, because all that dampness will be soaking up. I've done that several times, so try to keep it even. A jam jar lid is brilliant, because it normally sits quite nicely, but it's there for the minute. Anybody got any questions? So thanks for popping by, guys. Oh, better drink a mouthful of tea. So my daughter's made me a cup of tea. Hope he's not at home yet. And because I had some purple left, I've done my little creatures. And I've got this probably like a viridian, but it's quite dark. I think I'm going to do my other little creatures. So I'm going to be using my 2-0 paintbrush. So I'm quite pleased I bought these the other day, because I didn't intend to buy any. I did have a look at the larger Series 7, but out of my price range now. So I kind of like the idea of just using the colours up. And because these colours appear somewhere else, the page actually has some kind of unity. And you probably find that in a lot of old masters' paintings. You can look and you might see a red somewhere, and you'll find it somewhere else, because that's what artists used to do. Now, I don't know what I'm going to get if I mix these two together. A very dull purple. I think we might do the skull. And that's a really nice purple, actually, but it's a dull purple. It's not a bright purple. It's a blue purple. So you can take colours back and forth. And I think we might just have a bit of a pink moment up here. Rather than waste these, I think I'm just going to go around and colour them in. The colours will change slightly. And normally I never get to colour these little creatures in, because I don't like them. So it's quite nice to just have that extra paint there that I don't want to waste. And I won't use it anywhere else, I don't think. So we may as well go around. I get all these little fancy creatures. Got some wood pigeons. You can be purple as well. And again, you can tell this is quite wet, so we've got to be a bit careful. Oh dear, go away, fly, thank you. So thanks for joining me and thanks for watching, everybody on YouTube land. And hopefully the videos are slightly better because they're in HD, hopefully. So if you're looking at this and it looks a bit iffy, there's this tiny little wheel at the bottom of your screen. And if you clip it, it should bring up an HD 1080p. Or 1080p is probably better than anything else. So we've got some more little creature there. Now, one thing I do like about indigo is I've used indigo in Neocolor 2s, and I don't think there is one in the watercolors, but I think there's one. Is there one in watercolors? There's an indigo in Neocolor 2s, and there's an indigo in the Derwent watercolors, I think. Have a look for an indigo. That's the purples. Yeah, number 36 is indigo, and that's one that's in the Derwent watercolor pencils, and I think there's a very dark one in the ink 10s. That one is that's a navy blue, but it's very dark. There's an iron blue, and that's quite a nice one, and there's a deep indigo, and the indigos are wonderful for Kerby's clouds. So I do like. Oh, he says I picked up a pencil and started drawing. That's good for that. It's also quite therapeutic as well. As I said, I did pick this up because one of the dogs is not very well. Oh, I think we're going to have a raw sienna, very pale little snail down here, snail home. And I thought, well, what can I do? I thought, I couldn't grab a lot because she was panting, and I thought, oh my goodness. So I picked up my little book of watercolors and a book, and I just started to color with a water brush. So I could do that one-handed, and I was stroking ears because she loves her ears played with. She's a lurcher, and she's always loved her ears played with. So I was comforting her on the sofa, and I could do that without any mess, and I could do that on my knee. So I felt a lot better for that. So I'm going to do the clouds indigo. I think if I get that, I may leave the background white because I like the fact that my little owl is just sitting there. So I've got a nice shadow. Again, I could do a deeper shadow under there. We'll do that now because that looks okay. But then, so we have our shadow, but then we want a shadow on the shadow, if that makes any sense. And I'll show you what I mean. Maybe I should have done that when it's... So now we have a shadow on the shadow. And I do that when I do my mushrooms. When I'm colouring my mushrooms, I have a shadow under the little white dots, but then I put a very dark one in between the shadow and the edge of the mushroom, and that gives like a double shadow. So we've kind of got the dark, and then we've got a shadow, but we've got another shadow nearer, and that's what I've done here. I've put a bit more of a shadow directly under there, and I've run out of a dark now, so and it is dried, but again you can kind of think that it really, so we've got our shadow for the wing. So the shadow for the wing would be like that. And then we've got the shadow. And then, of course, we've got the whole fact that there is another shadow. So you could possibly have 3 and 4 shadows. But this is a nice shadow here. You possibly could have done with the wing. Maybe do another one. It wants to not be as light, dark as that, though. But we really want a dark under that. And I don't want to do an indigo, but I do want to do a sepia. But I am going to leave it a minute, because if I do it again, it'll probably go through. So I'm going to leave it to dry. It's damp, but it's dried. We have a Rosanes. Just realised we need some stems on our toadstools. So the trick is with any kind of professional watercolour is work as light, as barely damp as possible in a colour book page, and work in one place and then go away and work in another place. So leave this and go somewhere else, then come back. And I think that's the trick. And you can then use your beautiful watercolours in your colour books. And I've just got to keep an eye on the time. It's coming up to 1:15, so I've got about another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to finish this. What else can we do? We have a dragon. And there's a little white. If I leave that little bird white, he might stand up, and he's got that purple, so I need to use that purple up. So again, Tight Yorkshire Lass, I like to use that. And of course, it's a beautiful professional watercolour. It's going to come back because there's a lot of pigment. There's an awful lot of pigment in all this and very little binder. And that's, you pay for your pigment. So now I could possibly pick some of that dark up. But I can't go in there because it's too wet, but I can go back in here and create a little bit of interest. And here, so you can just build that little bit more interest. It's not just as boring. And again under here. And I do have that green. So again, because it's dried, in fact, I could actually do that and then go back under there again to make that darker. You just need to put some interest into these little creatures. And this colour will keep going on and on and on because it's just so vibrant. So we pick the green up and we've got this little man down here. And put a shadow on his ears. Just to make them a bit more interesting, because I don't normally do things with the aliens. I never like the aliens. They are growing on me though. He's obviously going to have the Harry Potter hat. Looks like the sorting hat. So he's going to have a bit of a hat. That's, if you go in different places and then go back, you have highlights and you've used the same brush, I think we might bring out a little bit more darkness under here and then really make the owl stand up. So thanks for watching, guys. It's about an hour and a half, this video, so it's quite long. It's going to be a long job, this. It's a big double page spread. I'll zoom out and you can see what I've done so far. But again, sometimes I like pages that are going to take a while, and sometimes, oops, probably that's a bit much. And I think I kind of like the little shadow I've got under here. This is fairly dry now. Mushrooms can maybe have a little bit more. Definitely the leaves can be brought out a bit more. And I'm trying to get away from all the lines. Sometimes it's a bit difficult because the lines are really the darkest things. But I think we can. And of course we can build this to be darker. I think I can build this so this can be darker. But I do like the indigo for the clouds. So that probably will be part 2 of Winsor & Newton watercolour markers. So thanks for watching. So thanks, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon, and probably see you on the other side. And links of the watercolours and the brushes and the book. Although it's been out quite a while now, but I actually really like this one. So thanks for watching. Enjoy your day and have a wonderful. Thanks for watching.